All right. So, looking at the agenda for today, the first thing that you might notice, or you will notice at the top, is there is an extra credit opportunity, and it is concerning the events that took place at Capitol Hill on January 6th. If we click on this, it'll take us to the assignment. And it says this assignment is for extra credit and is optional. So you don't have to do this, but I thought we'd talk about it for a second. So it says on January 6th, journalists covering the events at the U.S. Capitol had to decide what language would be best to capture what was unfolding. Some of the words they chose to include were protest, riot, attack, insurrection, coup, and even domestic terrorism. Okay. So what I want you to do for the extra credit, and this is kind of part of what we're talking about in this project, is understanding what's being said, misinformation, what's the truth, these are all their perspective and the language and words they chose to use. And these words are very powerful words. Okay. Riots, attacks, insurrection, coup, terrorism. Okay. Protest. These are very powerful words that mean in many different ways, different things. Okay. So what I want you to do is look up and read the definitions of these words, and which words would you use to describe what happened. So this is where you come in to say, this is what I've heard about it. This is what I've seen, and understanding what I've heard and seen. These are the words I would choose to use. Okay. And then, back that up with what evidence would you give to prove that the word is appropriate for what happened. Write a paragraph at minimum. Okay. So I'm looking for like a paragraph of you basically just reflecting. And I mean, if you submit anything, I'll give you a little bit of credit, as long as it's on this topic. So if you just want to like express yourself and talk about what happened, but to get the full extra credit, look up the words, choose what words you'd use and why would you use those in a paragraph at minimum. Okay. Any questions about the extra credit? Okay. Going back to the agenda. All right. So the first thing we're going to do today is look at the balcony scene that we talked about. We finished reading yesterday, and we're going to do a reflection on that assignment on that together. We're going to read the rest of Act 2, and then I'm going to give you all time to take a quiz on Romeo and Juliet, Act 1 and 2. That is not open yet, but I'll make sure to open that before the end of class to give you time to work on it. And then we are going to continue our character analysis assignment for Romeo and Juliet. And we're going to do Romeo, Juliet, Friar Lawrence, Mercutio, and the nurse. Okay. And you're going to look at those characters, those 5 characters today.
Could you post the attendance?
Yeah, I have not done that yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want me to go ahead and do that, Ms. Doctor? I usually wait until the end, but do you prefer I do it at the beginning? And we're going to go ahead and open up that first thing, balcony scene, Act 2, Scene 2, clicking on the agenda, and it'll come here. We can be able to view that template, and that should look like this right here. I'll make a copy. I'm not changing yours. So giving everybody a second to open that up. So looking at this, it says, after reading Act 2, Scene 2 of Romeo and Juliet, the balcony scene, that famous balcony scene, reflect on the reading by answering the following questions. So we took notes on this yesterday, but we're going to discuss it again. So if you miss something or need to write it down again, this is your opportunity. And the first question said, how did the scene present the idea of individualism? Okay, so this idea that is coming from the Renaissance period of individualism, focused on the individual. How did this scene kind of reflect individualism? And if I go back over to our reading, it's this part right here. Okay, it's where Juliet is speaking, not knowing Romeo hears her, but she says, "Oh, Romeo, Romeo, why do you have to be Romeo? Forget about your father and change your name. Or else, if you won't change your name, just swear you love me and I'll stop being a Capulet." They're willing to give up their family, who they are, as a group to be able to be together. Okay? So that's what you're explaining. And I'll say that again. They're willing to give up their name, their family, okay, that feud, and focus on the individual, the love for that they have for each other, and focus on themselves. Okay, so I'll give you a second to write that out and explain that. And she continues on down here. She says Romeo would be just perfect just as perfect even if he wasn't called Romeo. Romeo, you lose your name, trade in your name, which really has nothing to do with you, and take all of me in exchange. And then Romeo bursts out and says, I trust your words. From now on, I'll never be Romeo again. So they're willing to give up their family and give up their name, their status within Verona to be able to be together. So that individualism. All right. Give you another few seconds to do this. Sorry, responding student. So let's look at the second question. It says, how did the scene present the idea of humanism? Okay. So if we go back over here and look at this, I've got this quote up here. And Juliet says to Romeo, she says, tell me, how did you get in here? And why did you come? The orchard walls are high and it's hard to climb over them. If any of my relatives find you here, they'll kill you kill you because of who you are. And Romeo responds, and this is that humanistic response. I flew over those walls with the light of wings of love. Stone walls can't keep love out. Whatever a man in love can possibly do, his love will make him try to do it. Therefore, your relatives are no obstacle. And then Juliet says, if they see you, they'll murder you. And he says, alas, one angry look from you is worse than 20 of your relatives' swords. Just look at me kindly, and I'm invincible against their hatred. Okay, so humanism was this idea that through knowledge and through learning, we humans are capable of anything. And this is kind of alluding to that through love. Okay, the knowledge of love and that power of love. With that knowledge of love, humans can do anything. And Romeo is invincible. He can fly. He can fight off 20 men or 20 people with swords. So the idea here is that it shows that Romeo, because he has learned to love in the way he has, he's invincible. He's able to do anything. So take a moment, sum that up, explain that in your own words. All right, so to sum those two up for you all again, looking at the questions. Number 1 says, how did the scene present the idea of individualism? It allowed individual or showed individualism because the characters of Romeo and Juliet were willing to give up their family name and their positions and their titles and the feud that they were having to be together and focus on just themselves rather than their status within Verona. So if you have something like that, close to that, perfect. And number 2, how did the scene present the idea of humanism? Was the idea that through love, through the knowledge of love, Romeo feels as though he can do anything. Okay, he can fly over walls and he can fight off hordes of men and do these great, great things that are very powerful. So this idea of humanism through love, through knowledge, capable of anything. Okay. So our second part of this. So watch the following videos that are movie interpretations of Romeo and Juliet balcony scene, the 1968 version and the 1996 version, which are very different. 1968 is much closer to like the Renaissance era, what it would have been like with candlelight on a balcony, whenever the 1996 is a much more modern version where there's a pool and like twinkling lights and, you know, they're in a modern scene. But both are using the old English, okay? And they're only a couple of minutes each, so we're going to take a minute to watch these. I'm going to pause the video on here. You can go and just click on these yourself. So go watch those. All right, so now you're going to go into this question. Which version did you like the most and why? So the 1968 version, 1996 version, and the why can be whatever you want it to be. It can be like you like how it was shot better, you like the modern versus the old, you like the old because you like the castle. One chose to do the balcony while the other one chose to do it by a pool. Just take a second and write a couple of sentences on why, which one you like most, 68 or 96, and why. Make sure that is submitted, and we will go over to our No Fear Shakespeare PDF, and we will continue reading Act 2. Now, I've written out the page numbers for each of the scenes, and you'll notice that they're actually quite short. And honestly, 111 to 117, that's 6 pages, but you divide that by 2 because half those pages are the old modern Shakespearean English, so only 3 pages. The long one, scene 4, I do skip a part because it goes really long, and I want to make sure we can finish this at a good pace, and we'll fill that in. But we are going to read scene 3, 4, 5, and 6, and following that, we will have a quiz over what was covered in Act 1 and Act 2. And as long as you have been taking the notes that I've been telling you, and you've been paying attention and reading with us, you're going to do great. Today, there's only a few characters going back and forth, so I think that Miss Stockdale and I will kind of knock out the reading today. So I appreciate the volunteers in the past, and we'll do that again later. But today we want to make sure we're just going to be the two of us reading today. So we're going to go to page 111. 111. So you go to your No Fear Shakespeare, go to page 111. And I know some of y'all have been following me on this, and that's fine. Miss Stockdale, do you mind reading Romeo today? And I'll play the other characters.
That's fine.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, so we're going to start on page 111, Act 2, Scene 3. And we're going to meet a new character today, and his name is Friar Lawrence. Now, Romeo will call him father, but he is not his dad, okay? Montague is his dad, okay? This is more like a religious father, like a priest, okay? He's a friar.
A minister.
A minister, that's a good way to say it. Thank you.
Preacher,
yep. So he is, when he says father, he just means it in that way, okay? So here we go. The smiling morning is replacing the frowning night. Darkness is stumbling out of the sun's path like a drunk man. And right away we see that Friar Lawrence is talking about the day and the morning and the sun versus the night and darkness. So he's kind of poetic in this beginning that he's talking about like the light and the dark. Now before the sun comes up and burns away the dew, I have to fill this basket of mine with poisonous weeds and medicinal flowers. Medicinal means like medicine. Okay, so he's an herbologist, and he is making medicines and poisons and things like that. In addition to being like a preacher or a friar. The earth is nature's mother and also nature's tomb. Plants are born out of the earth and they are buried in the earth when they die. So he's talking about life and death, light and dark. From the earth's womb, many different sorts of plants and animals come forth, and the earth provides her children with many excellent forms of nourishment. Everything nature creates has some special property, and each one is different. Herbs, plants, and stones possess great power. There is nothing on earth that is so evil that does not. There's nothing on earth that is so evil that it does not provide the earth with some special quality. And there is nothing that does not turn bad if it's put to the wrong use and abused. Virtue turns to vice if it's misused. Vice sometimes becomes virtue through the right activity. So light versus dark, death versus light, virtue versus vice. So basically it's all talking about these good things and these bad things, and the light of the world and the dark of the world. So the evil and the good. Okay. So you can just see that right away, Friar Lawrence is clearly being defined as this person of knowledge and being able to balance what's good and bad. Romeo enters, but Friar Lawrence continues to speak. Inside this little rind, Inside the little rind of this weak flower, there is both poison and powerful medicine. If you smell it, you feel good all over your body, but if you taste it, you die. There are two opposite elements in everything, in men as well as in herbs, good and evil. And this is an allusion to what will happen later, kind of a foreshadowing that he's going to be using medicines to be able, because we're going to see that Romeo and Juliet are going to use medicines, and there's some chaos and misinformation later because of this. But he's also kind of alluding to love here. Okay, love can be both good and evil, and we see that with Romeo in the beginning of the play because he is dealing with heartache and then falls in love again, and the ups and downs.
Good morning, Father.
Oh, I didn't finish that last
You didn't get that far.
When
Sorry.
evil is dominant, death soon kills a body like a cancer. Go ahead. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Father.
God bless you, who greets me so early in the morning. Young man, something's wrong if you are getting out of bed this early. Every old man has worries, and worried men never get sleep or get any sleep. But young men should have a care in the world. They should get to bed early and get plenty of sleep. Therefore, the fact that you're awake this early tells me you've been upset with some anxiety. If that's not the case, then this must be the answer. You, Romeo, have not been to bed tonight.
Your last guess is right. I enjoyed a sweeter rest than sleep.
May God forgive you if you've sinned. Were you with Rosalind?
With Rosalind, Father? No. I've forgotten that girl and all the sadness she brought me.
That's good, my boy. But where have you been?
I'll tell you before you have to ask me again. I have been feasting with my enemy. Suddenly someone wounded me with love and was wounded with love by me. You have the sacred power to cure both of us. I carry no hatred, holy man, because my request will benefit my enemy.
Speak plainly. Make your meaning clear, my son. A jumbled confession can only receive a jumbled absolution.
I love Rich Capulet's daughter. I love her, and she loves me. We're bound to each other in every possible way, except we need you to marry us. I'll tell you more later about when and where we met, how we fell in love, and how we exchanged promises, but now I'm begging you, please marry us today.
Holy Saint Francis, this is a drastic change. Have you given up so quickly on Rosalind, whom you love so much? Then young men love with their eyes, not with their hearts. Jesus and Mary, how many tears did you cry for Rosalind? How many salty tear drops did you waste salting a love you never tasted? The sun hasn't yet melted away the fog you made with all your sighs, the groans you used to make are still ringing in my old ears. There's still a stain on your cheek from an old tear that hasn't been washed off yet. If you were ever yourself and this sadness was yours, you and your sadness were all for Rosalind. And now you've changed? Then repeat this after me. You can't expect women to be faithful when men are so unreliable.
You scolded me often for loving Rosalind.
I scolded you for obsessing about her, not for loving her, my student.
And you told me to bury my love. So
we see that Friar Lawrence is a mentor to Romeo here, and he's basically saying, don't be so switching back and forth. If you truly love someone, you need to let it grow, be patient. He's concerned about him. So Friar Lawrence is playing this role. Whenever you go to describe this character, playing a role of kind of a mentor to Romeo. I didn't tell you to get rid of one love and replace her with another.
Please, I beg you, don't scold me. The girl I love now returns my love. The other girl did not love me.
Oh, she knew very well that you were acting like you were in love without really knowing what love means. But come on, innocent, inconsistent young man. Come with me. I'll help you with your secret wedding. This marriage may be lucky enough to turn the hatred between your families into pure love.
Let's get out of here. I'm in a rush.
Go wisely and slowly. Those who rush stumble and fall. So Friar Lawrence, although he thinks that Romeo is definitely being irresponsible and rushing, he sees kind of the positive of this and the fact that it could quell the feud between the two houses. Okay, so the Capulets and Montagues hate each other. We know this. And perhaps them marrying their children can end that feud and would be a really positive thing. So Friar Lawrence, although he knows this might be rushing and a mistake, he's willing to see past it and indulge it so that he might be able to make peace. All right. So Act 2, Scene 4. We're going to read until Romeo comes in. Then we're going to skip some. Miss Stockdale, will you read Benvolio's part for this? And again, Mercutio. We're going to see Mercutio in this scene. Again, he is this crude man. He's going to say some kind of crude things here. And he's, again, we're going back and forth between these light-hearted moments and these dark or heavy moments with love and devotion. And to these lighter moments with Mercutio and Benvolio with more light and joking. Where the devil can Romeo be? Didn't he come home last night?
Not to his father's house. I asked a servant.
That fair-skinned, hard-hearted hussy Rosalind is going to torment him until he goes insane.
Tybalt, old Capulet's nephew, has sent a letter to Romeo's father's house.
I bet it's a challenge.
Romeo will answer the challenge.
Any man who knows how to write can answer a letter.
No, Romeo will respond to the letter's writer, telling him whether he accepts the challenge.
All right, so this is a big part of the plot here, is that Tybalt has written a letter to the Montagues family saying to Romeo's father's house, saying a challenge basically that you came to our party, I'm looking for you. When I find you, we're gonna fight, okay? And then Mercutio is going to talk about what this looks like. Oh, poor Romeo, he's already dead. He's been stabbed by a white girl's black eye. He's been cut through the ear with a love song. The center of his heart has been split by blind Cupid's arrow. Is he man enough at this point to face off with Tybalt?
Why? What's Tybalt's story?
He's tougher than the Prince of Cats. He does everything by the book. He fights like you sing at a recital, paying attention to time, distance, and proportion.
Sorry, I was writing something down.
No, you're good. I had to turn the page. He takes the proper breaks, 1, 2, and the third in your heart. He's the butcher who can hit any silk button, a master of duels. He's a gentleman from the finest school of fencing. Fencing is a type of fighting with swords, so he's a really good fighter. He knows how to turn any argument into a sword fight. He knows the passado, the forward thrust, the punto reverso, the backhand thrust, and the the thrust that goes straight through.
He knows what?
I hate these crazy affected guys who use foreign phrases and newfangled expressions. I hate their strange manners and their weird accents. I hate it when they say, by Jesus, this is a very good blade and a very brave man and a very good person, or bad word. Isn't this a sad thing, my good man? Why should we put up with these foreign buzzard, these fashion mongers, these guys who say, pardon me, these guys who care so much about manners that they can't kick back on a bench without whining? Oh, my aching bones. So Mercutio's kind of making fun of Tybalt because Tybalt is this high kind of like fashionista who like wears nice clothes but is very good at fighting. And he's basically showing that he's truly afraid for Romeo because Romeo could get into some danger here because Tybalt is actually a really aggressive, good fighter. So he's kind of fearful of that. And it's kind of a foreshadowing of what will happen. All right, so we're going to skip to because Romeo's going to come in, but we're going to skip to page 133 because in this section there is a back and forth between Benvolio, Mercutio, and the nurse and Romeo where there's a lot of jokes being made. It's very inappropriate. It doesn't add to the story other than the fact that they're just making fun of the nurse and kind of showing the adolescence and the youth of Mercutio, Benvolio, and even Romeo. So we're going to go to, I think I said 133. I just typed that in there. Sorry, 133. I'm going to start right there. So will you read the nurse part, the female part, if you don't mind?
Oh, yeah.
So page 133.
Please tell me, sir, who was that foul-mouthed punk who was so full of crude jokes?
Nurse, he's a man who likes to hear the sound of his own voice. He says more in 1 minute than he does in a whole month.
If he says anything against me, I'll humble him, even if he were stronger than he is, and 20 punks like him. If I can't do it myself, I'll find someone who can, that dirty rat. I'm not one of his sluts. I am not one of his punk friends who carries a knife. And you just stand there letting every jerk make fun of me for kicks?
And then Peter replies, I didn't see anybody use you for kicks. If I had seen something like that, I would have quickly pulled out my weapon. Believe me, I'll draw my sword as quick as any other man if I see a fight starting and the law is on my side.
Now, I swear I'm so angry that I'm shaking all over, that rotten scoundrel. Now, please, may I have a word with you, sir? My young mistress asked me to find you. What she asked me to say, I'll keep to myself. But let me tell you this first. If you lead her into a fool's paradise, as the saying goes, it would be an outrageous crime because the girl is so young. And if you try to trick her, it would be an evil thing to do to any woman and very poor behavior.
Nurse, give my regards to your lady. I swear to you.
You have a good heart, and believe me, I'll tell her that. Lord, Lord, she'll be a happy woman.
What are you going to tell her, nurse? You're not paying attention to me.
Sir, I'll tell her that you protest to her, which I think is the gentlemanly thing to do.
Tell her to devise a plan to get out of her house and come to confession at the Abbey this afternoon. At Friar Lawrence's cell, she can make confession and be married, giving her coins. Here is a reward for your efforts.
No, really, I won't take a penny.
Go on, I insist you take it.
Taking the money. This afternoon, sir, she'll be there.
Wait, good nurse. Within an hour, one of my men will come to you behind the abbey wall and give you a rope and ladder. I'll use the rope ladder to climb over the walls at night. Then I'll meet Juliet joyfully in secret. Goodbye. Be honest and helpful. I'll repay you for your efforts. Goodbye. Sing my praise to your mistress.
May God in heaven bless you. Now please listen, sir.
What do you have to say, my dear nurse?
Can your man keep a secret? Haven't you ever heard the saying, two can conspire to put one away?
I assure you, my man is as true as steel.
Well, sir, my mistress is the sweetest lady. Lord, Lord, when she was a little baby, oh, there is one nobleman in the city, a guy named Paris, who would be happy to claim her as his own. Juliet would rather look at a toad than at him. I make her angry sometimes by saying that Paris is more handsome than you are. But when I say so, I swear she turns white as a sheet. Don't Rosemary and Romeo begin with the same letter?
Yes, nurse. What about that? They both begin with the letter R.
Ah, you jokester. That's the dog's name. R is for the. No. I know it begins with another letter. She said the most beautiful things about you and Rosemary. It would be good for you to hear the things she says.
All right, so in this moment, the nurse gets confused often. Like earlier, she used the word protest, but she didn't mean to use that word. I forget the word she meant to say. And then she mixed up, like, who was she talking about? Was she talking about Rosemary or Romeo or the dog? And she's kind of messing with Romeo, but at the same time, she's forgetting. So she's a bit of comic relief. But Romeo says, "Give my compliments to your lady."
Yes, 1,000 times. Peter,
I'm ready.
go ahead. Go quickly.
And they all exit, ending scene 4. So they're setting up for Romeo and Juliet to meet. And then Juliet and the nurse in scene 5 meet back together and have a quick conversation about what happened when she talked to Romeo. And we see some more of the nurse getting a little confused and making jokes with Juliet. So let's see what that looks like. I'll read Juliet if you'll continue reading the nurse.
Sure.
I sent the nurse at 9 o'clock. Maybe she can't find him. That can't be. Oh, she's slow. Love's messengers should be thoughts, which fly 10 times faster than sunbeams. They should be strong enough to push shadows over the dark hills. That's the way doves carry Venus so fast. And that's why Cupid has wings that let him fly as fast as the wind. Now it's noon. That's 3 hours since 9 o'clock, but she hasn't come back. If she was young and passionate, she'd move as fast as a ball. My words would bounce her to my sweet love, and his words would bounce back to me. But a lot of old people act like they're already dead, sluggish, slow, fat, and colorless like lead. So Juliet, being a young girl, is kind of complaining because the nurse is being impatient. So this is showing a little bit of her adolescence, her youth. The nurse and Peter enter. Oh my God, here she comes. Oh, sweet nurse, what news do you bring? Have you spoken to him? Send your man away.
Peter, wait for me at the gate.
Now, good sweet nurse, oh Lord, why do you look so sad? Even if the news is sad, tell me with a smile on your face. If the news is good, you're ruining the sweet news by playing a trick with a sour face like that.
I'm tired. Leave me alone for a minute. Oh my bones ache so much. I've been running all over the place.
So the nurse is kind of purposely going slow here. But I wish you had my bones and I had your news. Come on now, I beg you, speak, good nurse, speak.
Sweet Jesus, you're in such a hurry. Can't you wait for a moment? Don't you see I'm out of breath?
How can you be out of breath when you have enough breath to tell me that you're out of breath? The excuse you make to delay the news is longer than the news itself. Is the news good or bad? Answer that question. Tell me if it's good or bad, and I'll wait for the details. Tell me so I can be satisfied. Is it good or bad?
Well, you have made a foolish choice. You don't know how to pick a man. Romeo? No, not him. Though his face is more handsome than any man's, and his legs are prettier. And as for his hands and feet and body, they're not much to speak of. And yet they're beyond compare. He's not the most polite man in the world, but believe me, he's gentle as a lamb. Well, do what you want. Be good. Have you had lunch yet?
No, I haven't had lunch. Everything you told me I already knew. What does he say about our marriage? What about that?
Lord, what a headache I've got. My head is pounding. It feels like it'll break into 20 pieces. My back aches too. Oh, the other side. My poor aching back. Curse your heart for sending me running all over town. I could get sick and die.
Believe me, I'm sorry you're in pain, sweet, sweet nurse. Tell me, what did my love Romeo say?
Your love says, like an honorable gentleman who is courteous, kind, handsome, and, I believe, virtuous. Where is your mother?
Where is my mother? Why, she's inside. Where else would she be? Your answer is so strange. Your love says, like an honorable gentleman, where is your mother?
Oh, Holy Mary, Mother of God, are you this impatient? Come on, you're being ridiculous. Is this the cure for my aching bones? From now on, take care of your messages yourself.
You're making such a fuss. Come on. What did Romeo say?
Do you have permission to go out and take confession today?
I do.
Then hurry up and rush over to Friar Lawrence's cell. There's a husband there who's waiting to make you his wife. Now I see the blood rushing to your cheeks. You blush bright red as soon as you hear any news. Go to the church. I must go by a different path to get a rope ladder. Your love will use it to climb up to your window while it's dark. I do the drudge work for your pleasure, but soon you'll be doing a wife's work all night long. Go. I'll go to lunch. You go to Friar Lawrence's cell.
Wish me luck. Thank you, dear nurse. And they exit. All right, so we're going to go over to Act 2, Scene 6, and Friar Lawrence and Romeo are together waiting for Juliet. And this is actually only like a 2-page scene, so it's quite quick. If you'll continue reading Juliet's line, if you'll read Juliet's line, I'll read Friar Lawrence and Romeo.
Okay.
Friar Lawrence. May the heavens be happy with the holy act of marriage, so nothing unfortunate happens later to make us regret it. Amen, amen. But whatever misfortunes occur, they can't ruin the joy I feel with one look at her. All you have to do is join our hands with holy words. Then love-destroying death can do whatever it pleases. It's enough for me that I can call her mine. So right there is a little, like, the audience hears this, that he says, love-destroying death can do whatever it pleases. It's enough for me if I can call her mine. So it's kind of this foreshadowing that death is on its way. And then Friar Lawrence replies, these sudden joys have sudden endings. They burn up in victory like fire and gunpowder. When they meet, as in a kiss, they explode. Too much honey is delicious, but it makes you sick to your stomach. Therefore, love each other in moderation. That is the key to long-lasting love. Too fast is as bad as too slow. Juliet enters in a rush and embraces Romeo. Here comes the lady. A footstep as light as hers will never endure the rocky road of life. Lovers are so light, they can walk on spider webs floating on the summer breeze and yet not fall. That's how flimsy and unreal pleasure is. So Friar Lawrence is trying to kind of stick in there a lot of like knowledge and wisdom here, although he doesn't really, although he knows this is going to kind of fix the feud of the families. He's also kind of saying, you got to slow down. You guys got to be smarter. You know, he's the mentor trying to be logical.
Good evening, my spiritual confessor.
Romeo will thank you, my girl, for both of us.
I'll give him equal thanks, so we're even.
And Romeo says, oh, Juliet, if you're as happy as I am and you're better with words, tell me about the happiness you imagine we'll have in our marriage.
I can imagine more than I can say. I have more on my mind than words. Anyone who can count how much he has is poor. My true love has made me so rich that I can't even count. I can't count even half of my wealth.
Friar Lawrence, come with me and we'll do the job quickly. Because if you don't mind, I'm not leaving you two alone until you're united in marriage. Kind of a joke at the end there. So we have ended Act 2, and this has set up our play to allow for us to see kind of how they've fallen in love very quickly and they get married, even with these wise people like the nurse and the friar allowing this. And they haven't told anyone else, none of their parents, none of their family members. And a reminder, Act 1 is Sunday and Act 2 is Monday. So this is 24 hours, 48 hours at max, and they are getting married. So this is an extremely exaggerated story, okay? So this is not at all like factual to history that people would do this. Shakespeare is purposely showing kind of the infatuation and the kind of craziness of all of this. All right, so the next thing I want you to do is take the quiz that is linked here. You'll take the quiz. I'll put a link in there for you to click on it. First, let's look at the character analysis assignment. If I click on this, we can look at it together. So you all should have done We scroll down here. You're going to do both of these things. We've got about 30 minutes left in class. The quiz is only 8 questions, so it should only take a few minutes. They're short multiple questions. And then I should leave you about 20 minutes to do Act 2. So in the agenda, I am saying that you need to cover the following characters for Act 2, okay? You need to cover Romeo, Juliet, Friar Lawrence, and Mercutio, okay? And what you're going to be doing is in this Act 2 section, you'll write their names, Romeo, Juliet, Friar Lawrence, Mercutio, give a character description of what they did in Act 2. So this is, everything from essentially the balcony scene all the way through to them getting married, okay? So how does Romeo react to all this? How does Juliet react to all this? How does Friar Lawrence react? And what does Mercutio do? And we talked about Mercutio as kind of that crude jokester. And then character quotes, I did lessen it down to 1 quote for each of them, just for time's sake. And usually we're in person, so we have a little bit more time to look at those together and things like that. So I'm just going to change these to 1 quote each. That kind of defines that section that really stood out. And I know yours says 3 quotes, but 1 quote is acceptable. And I did put that into the agenda there. It says 1 quote for each character is acceptable, and the assignment says 3, but you can do 1 for each. Okay? But first, you need to take the quiz. Make sure you take the quiz first, then do the character analysis, because the quiz is worth knowledge and thinking points, which is much more important. Okay? Do we have any questions? I heard somebody.
No, that was at my house.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I thought their mic was messing up. Okay, if you don't have any questions,